Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Got you the latest on Tropical Storm Erin. Erin is still forecast to become a hurricane and a powerful one at that. So, first thing we'll go over is current conditions with this system this morning out here in the Atlantic, the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll go over all model guidance, and then we'll discuss the steering currents, the environmental background of the Atlantic, and how it will eventually support the significant strengthening of Erin once it gets into the southwest Atlantic. So we'll geek out with you guys a little bit, discuss a couple other areas we need to watch out here in the tropics, the Atlantic, maybe even in the southern areas of the Gulf, the Western Caribbean in the shorter term, and then we'll round the video off with today's forecast. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's start it off while taking a look at this system right now. Make sure that's going to work for us. And this is Tropical Storm Erin. You can see it definitely more on satellite this morning compared to really any time yesterday. You know, it was kind of blending in with all this other convection yesterday, but you can definitely pinpoint it now. Solid cyclonic spin to it, and it's popping off some deeper convection indicated by the colors you see right here in this area. Now, you know, if you're wondering what these colors are, this is colder cloud tops, which means we have stronger storms. And the stronger the storms, the taller the updrafts, the taller up these storms are, and the taller up you get, the colder it gets in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And this is reflected by the colors you see on your screen. And the reason I keep going over this, if you've been tuning into my videos for a while with tracking the tropics, is because we're going to have a fantastic example of this once Erin does strengthen. So just want to kind of refreshing the information almost every single time. But this is Erin right here spinning away, still a weak tropical system, but you know, it's definitely popping off some better convection, shower and storm activity today, well, this morning compared to yesterday. So we'll move past this. The latest from the National Hurricane Center. Erin is a 45 mile per hour tropical storm moving west at about 20 miles per hour. So it's slowed down a little bit. Back down to a 1004 millibar low. I think it was a little bit weaker yesterday evening when we made the video, so it's strengthened a little bit. And that makes sense considering the fact that it's popping off some healthier convection. Now, I will say this too. There's an area of interest now up, and you know where this yellow X is, that is where just a little bit of tropical energy is, kind of tucked into the Western Caribbean. And this could sneak into sort of the southwestern areas of the Gulf, the Bay of Campeche, and then have a 20% chance to develop. We'll speak a little bit on that after we speak on Erin, but I did just want to pinpoint that on your screen because we know that things can do some tricky things here in the Gulf, right? So let's move past that and let's focus back on Erin. Erin's right here. The sun's coming up on the Atlantic. It's pretty much already coming up on the eastern seaboard now too. But it's forecast to become, and this is the cone from the National Hurricane Center, just a different way to look at it. This is called Zoom Earth, available free to the public. It's fantastic. I love it. You can move it around. There it goes. It's, you know, updating a little bit. So obviously the ocean a little bit brighter as the sun's coming up. But this thing is forecast to remain a tropical storm all the way until maybe late tomorrow night. 2 a.m. Friday says it becomes a Category 1 hurricane. By 2 a.m. Saturday, a 100 mile per hour Category 2 hurricane. And then potentially into a major Category 3 hurricane by 2 a.m. Sunday. So the cone has moved north. So it's no longer including like the northern Leeward Islands or the British Virgin Islands. So that's good. And it's basically splitting the gap between all land masses. Of course, we need to watch out for Bermuda right up here, and the Turks Caicos Islands and the Bahamas. But right now, you guys are not in the cone, but this does only extend out to 2 a.m. next Monday. So let's move past this and look at the latest Euro. So we're going to start all model guidance off with Friday morning, August the 15th. So here in the next 48 hours. And here it is. The Euro has a 1002 millibar low sneaking into the southwest Atlantic. So if the Euro is correct, we're not going to have much strengthening of this system between now and the next 48 hours, which makes sense with the environment. But watch what happens. This thing begins to strengthen. So as you see that number drop right here, we're starting to get a stronger system. As that millibar drops, low pressure deepens, stronger low, stronger tropical system. So if the Euro is correct, it says we have a pretty strong Category 1 hurricane just northeast of the Leeward Islands around Saturday. And then this thing really picks up some strength as we start to get into the end of this weekend. So Sunday evening, 972 millibar low. I mean, that's maybe a Category 2 maybe stronger. And then this really begins to take that northern jog and deepens to around a 950-ish millibar low early next work week, the 18th, 19th, Monday and Tuesday of next week. And I mean, this thing at this point is probably a major hurricane. Category 3, maybe even a Category 4. Bermuda right here, right? The Bahamas, Turks, Caicos down here, southeast coastline. And it misses everybody. And as we're getting into Wednesday, Thursday of next week, splits everybody and then turns out to sea. And really, it doesn't even clip southeast Canada much. Like, as this continues, it does hit like the Avalon Peninsula and southeast Newfoundland. And that would bring some heavy impact with such a strong storm system still. And this is for next Thursday, next Friday. Really tells you how long we're still going to be talking about this. But it clips southeast Newfoundland, so we definitely need to watch. But Nova Scotia, you guys continue to look out of the woods with this. I know a lot of people in southeast Canada need some rain, but of course we don't want rain from a powerful hurricane just running right into your area. But we still need to watch this for southeast Canada. What about the GFS? What does it do? I haven't looked at this run yet. This is new to me, so we're going to look at it together, right? Has this at a little bit stronger Friday morning, so does have it at a solid tropical storm, several millibars lower than the Euro at this point, has it into a sub 1,000 millibar low, and then we start to get into a Saturday morning, we get into Sunday morning, and this thing is turning already, and it's a 985 storm, so that's probably a Category 1, close to Category 2 hurricane, and then it begins to turn very quick as it rapidly intensifies. We'll talk about why it does that in this area of the ocean here in a second. So this is next Monday evening. It's a 948 millibar hurricane. I mean, that would be Category 3 easy, maybe even Category 4. Bermuda's right here. How close does it get? Oof, it runs right into Bermuda. Of course, you know, to make an actual landfall into Bermuda, that center of low pressure has to go right over the island. Not sure if it does that here, but regardless, you don't want the GFS to verify for Bermuda because it shows a hurricane, a very strong major hurricane hitting Bermuda a week from right now. But it definitely misses all the Caribbean islands, definitely doesn't get into the Caribbean at all, misses the Turks Caicos Islands, the Leeward Islands, but it does hit Bermuda and just has a hard time curving, it looks like, right into here. So how close does this get to, say, Atlantic Canada up here? Let's move this, yeah, ugh. It looks like with the GFS in the longer term, it just has a harder time curving this. Maybe a trough picks it up, but it really slams southeast Newfoundland, especially the Avalon Peninsula. And same time frame, next Thursday and next Friday, we got to continue to watch this for you folks. That is a big hit. The actual center of low pressure doesn't go over you guys, but it's obvious as we continue to look at model guidance that, you know, the west, northwest, and north quadrant of this storm is going to be the worst. So that will definitely extend more into land into southeast Canada. What about the Euro AI model? What does it have? Continues to want to keep this just lower in strength in the shorter term, which would ultimately make it kind of drift a little bit further west. So this does get a little bit close to, say, the northern Leeward Islands, to British Virgin Islands, places like that as we're getting into Saturday evening. So it's really close, but it's not as strong of a storm system, which doesn't really follow the National Hurricane Center forecast intensity really at all. So it's hard to really take the Euro AI serious, but we certainly need to still show it. But just like other model guidance, it intensifies this and begins to head north and goes between Bermuda and the southeast with the eastern seaboard and splits everybody and then heads north, and it does clip, you know, Newfoundland a little bit, but not that much. So what about the icon? We only got out to about 120 hours, so Friday morning. Has a weak system. Like, it has it much weaker than it is right now. Not much, but a little bit weaker. So I don't know. I don't know if we take that serious or not, but I thought I would show it. And what about the Euro Ensemble? Almost every single member from the ensemble, which remember is 51 members in this case, turns this out to sea. In fact, not one member hits the Caribbean islands, the Greater Antilles, Bahamas, Turks, Caicos Islands. Now, many members, impact Bermuda, which is right here. But heck, these members don't even really mess with Newfoundland much. And I know I don't have Newfoundland on the map here, but a lot of them guys just. And you guys made a good point. I saw this in the comments. It says, why say recurve if it never curves in the first place, I guess. Well, all of them curve out to sea and don't really bother anybody except Bermuda. We got to watch southeast Canada. So that's the good news that I mentioned. Right now, this thing, it looks like it's going to stay out to sea. So let's talk about, and listen, that's not an exact forecast from me or anybody, I would say, but all things indicate that this finding a weakness in the steering currents and turning. Now, why does this system go from a 998, say on the Euro, Friday evening, the beginning of our weekend, and go to this by Monday evening? So basically, Friday evening, right, August the 15th, Monday evening, August the 18th. Why in 3 days does it go from just a weak tropical storm to a major hurricane? Strengthens a lot, and I think it could strengthen even more. I think it could strengthen in a shorter time period than even that, is what I'm trying to say. So why does it strengthen so much in this area? Well, once it gets right here, sort of, I would say northeast of the Leeward Islands, steering currents in the upper levels of the atmosphere really begin to slow. So that means that there's not a lot of push in the atmosphere. So there's not a lot of wind shear really significantly impacting this system from any kind of flow, from any sort of TUT, upper level low. There's not even a lot of flow around the ridge. There's a ridge right here making this begin to turn, weakness showing up. But basically this enters an environment with low wind shear. So it's able to basically create a lot of rising air in the middle of the system, and it's basically just able to disperse that air at will. And this just lets this thing live and breathe its best life. So it takes off in strength this weekend because of that, because it really enters an environment that just supports really low wind shear. And you can see it here as we get into about the middle of this weekend. I'll draw on this a little bit. These things spin like this cyclonically in the low to mid levels, but in the upper levels, this is at 200 millibars, at 40,000 feet up in the air. Air is being dispersed out away from the system, actually anticyclonically. So this is, you almost got what you call a ULAC over this system, an upper level anticyclone. And basically that is going, if that's right on top of the system, that's going to create like an exhaust system for this hurricane. And it's going to allow this system to create an environment that supports divergence aloft, a lot of air being tossed out away from the top of the system, allowing for more air to rapidly rise. Rising air allows for convection, shower and storm activity. Shower and storm activity creates a moist environment for these tropical systems. We know that tropical systems like moist air. So if it's able to develop a cocooned area of moist air around this actual low-level circulation, this thing can just take off like a rocket and potentially rapidly intensify. And that's why it deepens from just a tropical storm to a major hurricane in just a few days of time. And a lot of air being dispersed out away from the system. Just a lot. So this thing really lives and breathes its best life out here and just takes off. So, and I do think there's some features out here that could provide a little bit of wind shear for this. And we'll talk about that when we get a little bit closer. But, another thing is sea surface temperatures, guys. I mean, these sea surface temperatures in the area that this system is going to go, which is probably like right into here. It's not a great color. Probably right into here or right into here, wherever it goes, 29, 30 degrees Celsius. I mean, that's well into the 80s in Fahrenheit. So it's very warm. The waters are very warm out here in the Southwest Atlantic. Now, what about steering currents? Why is it going to go the way it's going to go? Well, if you look right here, let's find the right color for this. Let's just go with black. This is our actual low pressure itself. So this is Erin as we're getting into tomorrow evening. So flow around this ridge is going like this, right? Going like that, a little bit of weaker flow over here, and then on top of the system it's going like this, a little nudge like that. So it's kind of a scrawny, elongated ridge, right? It's not real beefy. It's kind of just long and strung out, but that's enough to steer this system, in the shorter term, east to west, just like this, because the flow in the bottom flank of the ridge is pushing it one way or the other, in this case, east to west. So we move here in time, and the ridge is still there. What you'll notice is this little nudge, this little dip right here. Looks like some sort of trough. This looks like it tries to come down and weaken the ridge. Now, whether that's what's causing it or not, or it's just timing thing, the ridge just weakens. By the time that Erin gets right about right here, you're starting to see a little bit of a weakness in the ridge. So you're not seeing those red colors here. You know, this red here, this red here, this is stronger ridging, right? So it's kind of like a split between the areas of stronger ridging, and you have a weaker area of the ridge right here. The system itself rapidly intensifying because the steering currents are slowing and just the upper winds are just getting lighter, begins to intensify. And we know that a stronger system is always going to want to fight to gain latitude a little bit more. So it's going to really hug up against the southern flank of that flow of the ridge regardless if it was strong or not. Not really plow into it, but just really try to hug it. So as we continue to move forward here, that weakness continues to show up. I would say on the latest Euro, the weakness isn't as weak as, say, yesterday afternoon's Euro, but it's still there. So it sees that weakness, and you can see it. I mean, it's pretty obvious right there. Stronger ridging here, weakness right here. And this trough also is digging down and probably creating even more of a weakness. So at this point, the flow is going like this, kind of like this. So this might nudge this system a little bit more to the west. But there's also a rapid flow around the base of this trough digging down to southeast Canada going like this. So this is going to try to get picked up by the flow at the bottom edge of that trough and really catapult it quickly into the North Atlantic. And that's exactly what happens. And this thing basically finds that weakness. And at this point, flow's coming down like this. Flow's going around this ridge just like that. And this thing's going to just go like that and just get shot up into the North Atlantic, because you have two different flows working in tandem, going the same direction. These flows are kind of generated by two different things. A trough right here, top edge of a strong ridge at this point. You see how this gets more into a burgundy color? That's stronger ridging. So this thing's just jetting off. So you can see if I put this in a little bit faster motion, ridge is steering this. Little trough dig right here might weaken the ridge. Finds that weakness. Stronger system wants to gain latitude anyways because it feels upper level wind currents more. So it's going to feel the currents being pulled around this western flank of the ridge more, and then this thing takes off. So in my opinion, it's a pretty clear-cut path out to sea. The only thing that could prevent it from turning quicker is if, let's back it up here, this system just stays very weak, or either two, the ridging trends stronger in the short to medium term. So the system stays weak and kind of drifts into the Bahamas, then strengthens, then begins to turn. It turns a little bit too late and therefore affects the southeast coastline. So, you know, at the end of the day, there is other things to watch behind this. You see these, and ignore all this. This is Erin, but you see all these L's scattered about out here in the MDR. So this tells us there's going to be more tropical waves probably behind this. So we want to watch how model guidance picks up on these waves behind Erin. So it's kind of like you're going to have to be watching two different things at the same time. If you look at the Euro, it does pick up on some tropical wave activity. You can see how, Erin leaves your screen up here. But there is some waves. You see some L's. They're kind of just floating, but nothing too crazy develops, right? Now, what about the GFS? What does it show? There goes Erin jolting off. Here comes a little bit of a tropical wave right here. We continue to move forward. Anything else? Not really. But, if you do look at, and I'll pull it up in the next video, I'm not going to do it right here, but if you do look at the global tropics hazard outlook extending all the way through the rest of the month in the early September, it does highlight some areas out here in the Atlantic for more tropical development. I do want to look a little bit closer. See this little bit of a spin now running into the Yucatan Peninsula? That is a little tropical disturbance, not dubbed an invest or anything like that. But this area right here could emerge into the southern Gulf and try to develop very quickly. Now, it doesn't have much time to do so. And you can see the little vort right here entering as we're getting into tomorrow, the southern Gulf. We'll see if that can do something tricky here. I think regardless, this is just going to go right into land of Mexico, or maybe even bring some impacts to southern Texas. We'll have to see. But the upper wind pattern does support a little development. So we'll have to watch. That's why there's a 20% chance. So today's weather, guys, let's get this in motion. We'll have to breeze through this fast because, unfortunately, it took me forever to get the video going because of a barking dog and a very loud tweeting bird this morning outside of my room. But anyways, a lot of moisture across the eastern U.S. Rounds of rain, and we do have a little bit of flow across the northern Rockies, northern plains. But watches, warnings, and advisories, a lot of heat alerts across the west. We got the red flag warnings in that hot pink color. Heat advisories in Nevada, extreme heat warnings to the south. Heat advisories in the parishes of Louisiana and surrounding counties of states. Heat advisories now up again for the low country of South Carolina, southeast Georgia, northeast Florida. Heat advisories in Maine and areas of the northeast. So some hot temperatures out there. Storm Prediction Center outlook, a marginal risk across areas of the I-95 corridor, points inland. So some of these storms could pack a punch up in this area today. And then we do have the marginal and slight risk up here for South Dakota into northern Nebraska. It does include areas of the northern plains. And tornado threat is at a 2% risk here. The hail threat, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60. Hail threat a little bit lower. Excessive rainfall outlook. We got to watch the southern Appalachian Mountains, guys. Always got to watch this area for flash flooding. For what Helene did, I think everybody will always be sensitive, at least in our lifetime, with flooding in this area, with what happened. But there is a 15% risk of flash flooding in this area. So the southeast today, you can see just rounds of moisture, and we'll stop it here. It's around 6, 7 o'clock this evening. Just scattered thunderstorms anywhere. Middle Tennessee, you see some in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, up here in Virginia, West Virginia. They could be anywhere. And we'll have to watch a big plume of moisture that surges through northeast Georgia into South Carolina later tonight. But, rainfall between now and the next 36 hours, a lot of it here in the southern app. So if you're vacationing here in the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, the Smokies, expect a lot of rainfall over the next couple days. Northeast, these storms could pack a punch, so we take it all the way to this evening. You see the storms sort of south of Albany, getting into southern New England. These storms could definitely produce some gusty winds, maybe some small hail. Tornado threat very, very low. Doesn't even show up on the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. But this energy will continue to sweep off the coastline. But a lot of areas up here need some rain, so hopefully you'll get some, but it will be hit or miss for sure. South Central U.S., pop-up thunderstorms, really the theme. Somebody's going to get 2 inches of rain. Somebody will get absolutely nothing. That's just the way the pattern is. Very, very summer-like pattern with pop-up and limited flow down here. The North Central U.S., just watch out for some of these storms to be strong to severe here in South Dakota, for sure. I wouldn't expect anything too crazy, but there is a slight risk in place. And then the western U.S., this is what we're looking at out here. A little bit of flow riding through Nevada, Utah, Colorado, a little bit of storm action there. Temperatures, this is the eastern half of the country, very hot along the I-95 corridor. So instability will certainly be high in these areas for some of these storms to pack a heck of a punch. Southeast, 80s and 90s. South central U.S., 90s, very hot. And the entire western U.S. is hot. So, guys, I do apologize for kind of breezing through today's forecast portion of the video lately. I'll be honest, it's been difficult to start my videos lately. I've had to restart them about 10 to 15 times. That, of course, takes about an extra 10 to 15 minutes in the morning sometimes. And sometimes I'll get 3 minutes into the video and then my dog starts barking extremely loud outside of my door. Props to my little girls for keeping him calm in this video. And I'm talking about Copper. If you've been watching my video, you guys know I got a husky back in March, and he loves me to death. He follows me. He follows my ankles all day when I'm home. And he's definitely a man's best friend, and he does not like when I close the door. But, of course, he is still kind of a puppy, even though he doesn't look like one anymore. And if I was to leave him in the room with me, he would be a huge distraction. So, anyways, sorry to rush through that one. God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all, and we'll try to fit in the video this evening. Y'all have a wonderful day.